hear him say that he's going to move their channel. Hear him say that he's going to move their channel.
last year. Karun Chandok alongside me. It is another gorgeous day in northern Italy. And I have to say, one of my favourite days of the year. If you want speed, come here and come here on a Saturday.
It is the ultimate, isn't it? The qualifying speeds we get around here are just phenomenal. And the crowd are rolling in. The Tifosi have got to the end of their working week. They're coming in on a Saturday morning. It was a little bit thin, I have to say, yesterday. But the red T-shirts and flags are out in force here today. 31 degrees, beautiful sunny skies for qualifying.
Yeah, don't forget my mate Curly there. He's been doing that hairstyle all night, getting ready for this one. Fans with fans, and they're going to need them as well. Track temperature 43 degrees at the moment. Air temperature 31 degrees. No chance of rain whatsoever. But in terms of chances, lots of drivers going into today thinking, I could be on pole here.
And I think there's 7 of them who do really have a chance of pole. I mean, we'll see, like Checo as well. This is an unusual track, and his long runs actually looked pretty decent yesterday. You know, compared to Max, the average wasn't so bad. So we'll see if they're able to unlock some speed. We didn't see the best of the Red Bulls over one lap in qualifying, and that's why I'm a little bit cautious, you know, judging their pace. And you know, we thought Max was going to be a couple of tenths off yesterday. But this man, Charles Leclerc, he's got enough reasons to smile, isn't he? You know, he's a Ferrari driver in Monza with a car I genuinely think capable of fighting for the front row.
Absolutely. Pole here, of course, in 2019 and 2022 as well. He won from pole in 2019, but he could do with a good weekend. He's been outscored, what, 108.54 by Oscar Piastri in the last 7 races. Piastri, the only driver to complete every racing lap in 2024 and the top scorer in the last 5 Grand Prix, and there he is, 4th in the Drivers' Championship with 179 points, and at a McLaren team on a run of 11 consecutive races where 1 or 2 drivers have been on the podium.
And I have to say, the Ferrari drivers, I think, are doing an excellent job as a collective. You look at even last weekend, they absolutely maximized the performance of the car. Nobody expected them to finish 3rd and 5th, and they did. And when you look at the constructors table, we're all talking about McLaren and Red Bull. Ferrari are only 64 points behind Red Bull.
Yeah,
and
right.
you know, if those 2 drivers keep that excellent form on, they could put Red Bull under pressure towards the end of the season.
Red Bull potentially finishing 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Not something, Ted Kravitz, we would have mentioned at the start of the season.
No, I'm sure they won't be. I'm sure they won't be. Well, it could be. Anything's possible. But to be a Ferrari driver at Monza, how must that feel? Join us down here live at the Ferrari garage. There is the darling of the Tifosi, Charles Leclerc, just getting his crash helmet on. I don't know if you saw a moment ago, Carlos Sainz, Crofty, just waving to the fans, the Tifosi in the main grandstand. And what it must feel like for Carlos Sainz to know this is the last time, unless something really weird happens, that he will be at Monza as a Ferrari driver. That must be tinged with a little bit of sadness, but Carlos certainly taking in the moment. But it's Carlos's old team next door at McLaren where all the focus is on for qualifying later on this afternoon. It showed yesterday that McLaren probably have, by a 10th of a second or even a 100th of a second, the fastest qualifying car. But will they do it? Can they do it? Will they convert it? And will it be that man, Oscar Piastri, or the man just to his left, car number 4, Lando Norris? We can just see the back of Lando's head here in the garage as well, who actually converts and gets it done for McLaren. Or do Mercedes have something up their sleeve? Weren't too confident yesterday, were they, Crofty? But you never know with Mercedes, and then not to mention Max Verstappen. I'm seeing a few rear wing angles different from yesterday, Crofty.
Really?
Yeah,
what, less or more?
Yeah, well, Red Bull looks to be, just eyeballing it, a little less of a thick rear wing angle than yesterday. McLaren looks about the same, and Ferrari looks a little bit more than they had yesterday. But hey, it'll all shake out later today.
The eternal compromise, Karun Chandok, as we see Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu on track, between straight line speed and needing a little bit more downforce for the braking zones and the corners.
Yeah, exactly that. It's you know, it's obviously the issue at every circuit, but here with these enormous straights we've got, and really it's more complicated now because of 2 reasons. A, whatever you have in qualifying, you also have in the race.
Yep.
B, with DRS in qualifying, you've got the opportunity to dump some of that drag at certain parts of the track, but then you might be stuck with it in the race. So there's a lot of things for the teams to think about.
You don't necessarily need the skinniest rear wing that you can find. I think Seb Vettel won once here by being the slowest in a straight line. But of course, he had the stability under braking and that downforce through the corners. Nico Rosberg has ambled his way over to the commentary box. Good to see you.
It's a great pleasure to be here once again.
You look so stern when you say that, though. Your eyebrows come together. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's lovely to have you here. What did you prefer here, less or more downforce?
Well, you prefer more because it just makes it easier to attack. But unfortunately, sometimes less can be quicker.
What did you have in 2016?
And it's sometimes, most of the time, the simulation will be able to tell you the best way around this racetrack. But sometimes when balance comes into play, or tires overheating, or things like that, the computer can get it a bit wrong, and you end up in the wrong place with it. And that's why, as we've seen Ted spotting out there, some people are trying different things again today.
Exactly. That's why we have these practice sessions. So Fernando Alonso starts on his way for a time lap on a hard compound tyre. We saw a lot of soft tyre running yesterday. I'm not sure we're going to get a massive amount of soft tyre running in this particular session, but I think Alonso might want himself another preparation lap there.
Yeah, he's on the hard tyre, I think, for the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we often see Aston just scrub in some tyres at this point of the weekend for the race. So he may look at him how gently he's going even through the Curva Grande. So he might just be, you know, going around to prepare the tyres for when they put it on at the pit stop in the Grand Prix tomorrow.
Second lap, though, so unusual to see them scrubbing the tyres over 2 laps there.
Less corners here, maybe.
Well, there's only 11. To be fair, second fewest amount of corners on the Formula One circuit. Hasn't finished Fernando Alonso in the top 4 in 2024. You surprised by that, Nico?
Totally, because they had such a turnaround in form at the beginning of last year, where they were the second best team behind Red Bull and going for podiums every race. And since then, they've just lost their way a little bit, which is difficult to understand, that you do such a strong turnaround, but then don't manage to improve things further. And yeah, so a bit of head scratching there, and not looking too good at the moment.
A lot going on behind the scenes at Aston Martin, not just with the new campus, but with new staff coming in as well.
Adrian Newey, maybe,
yeah.
right, Crofty?
I think we might hear something about Adrian Newey's future next week.
And what do you think that news is going to look like?
No idea, Nico.
Yes, you do.
Possibly say.
You told me before.
What did he say?
Well, he's been linked heavily with Aston Martin, hasn't he?
Indeed, indeed.
Do Aston Martin need Adrian Newey?
Everybody needs Adrian Newey, yes. Like not a daily, you know, but as a big picture consultant concept, you know, and overseeing the teams, overseeing the major decision making. I think that's where he's absolutely brilliant. The problem is it comes with a substantial cost as well. But it seems Aston Martin would be able to afford that at the moment.
But I think the cost is actually a pretty simple equation, isn't it? If you move up 2 places in the Constructors' Championship because of Newey, he's paid for himself, which is, I'm sure, what they're hoping for.
I would imagine he's an inspiration to staff as well. So to those that are working in a factory, Adrian Newey comes and joins your team. It's like, right, okay, now it gets serious. Now we're going to work even harder.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as that, because it can also backfire. You know, if you have a team that's well working together and are always of one opinion, going in the same direction, and then you have someone else coming in and start point fingers and, hey, this is the wrong way. I think that could also be very disturbing. So it's not, it's not a no-brainer. You need to think about it.
It's funny, we've sort of gone full cycle on a conversation, I think, from 19 years ago. I remember Gerhard Berger said that Dietrich Mateschitz, the boss of Red Bull, the drinks company, phoned him up one day and said, I have the opportunity to get Adrian Newey, but it's going to cost me a lot of money. What should I do, you know, as a mate?
Yeah.
And Gerhard said, if you want to keep the money and make your bank balance look good, that's fine. If you want to win, you have to get him. And you'd have to say that was pretty good advice, because if you look at the success of Red Bull have had.
And you give Lawrence Stroll his due. He has said from the outset, I'm going to take this team, I'm going to turn them into a championship contender, and we will win championships eventually. And he has very much put his money where his mouth is over the last few years.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Clarkson says Adrian Newey's house hunting in Oxfordshire, so, you know, who knows what might happen next week.
Yeah, interesting time.
Yuki Tsunoda knows what's happening. He's staying, of course, with RB for next season. He's running the upgraded package on the RB this weekend. Daniel Ricciardo will have to wait until Baku for that one. And we go from RB to Max Verstappen. This is a little more energetic. This is a little more lively out on the track. And he's been quickest overall. It's not saying much because we haven't had many laps so far through the middle sector.
But we went a bit too fast there. Like, who's going to be in the second RB seat?
Would you like to go? Oh, right. Who knows?
We've skipped over the spicy stuff.
Well, okay, let's come back. Who do you think is going to be in it, since you brought it up?
The problem is that Daniel has been doing better and better as of late. So it's, what used to be the obvious choice that, hey, okay, you have to give Liam Lawson now his go.
Yeah.
Which is about time.
I think so.
He deserves a go, and
but is Liam Lawson going to get a go in this car? As the camera cuts to Sergio Perez, just at a spicy moment there. Could Red Bull bring Liam Lawson in if Sergio Perez isn't doing what they want for next year? Would that mean Daniel Ricciardo keeps his seat at RB, or could two drivers lose their seats?
Yeah, I don't see them putting Liam into this seat. They're definitely committed to making it work with Perez, and so that's not an option for me.
Okay, Kareem?
I think Tsunoda Lawson is a lineup that looks at the future.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I just go back to what is the point of RB, and the point is to train up drivers to come and race in the big team. By re-signing Perez, they basically send a message to Daniel saying, we're sticking with Checo, we're not putting you in the big team, so why not prepare the next one to come up?
Something flew off the back of Sergio Perez Red Bull down the straight. We might send Ted Kravitz down to have a wee chat. There's chats everywhere at the moment. On a day where Kimi has been making all the headlines, the original Kimi comes back to the paddock and he's having a chat with Mattia Binotto. Oh, could we get two Kimis on the grid? They've still got a seat next year for Sauber, haven't they? Could Mattia Binotto be about to sign the original Kimi for Sauber?
He still looks young enough to go.
He does.
What a legend, huh?
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, two Kimis could get confusing next year. We'll talk about the new Kimi in a little while. Announced for Mercedes today for next season alongside George Russell. Andrea Kimi Antonelli will be driving in F1. Fernando Alonso then has scrubbed in that set of hard compound tyres. So you're absolutely right, Mr. Chandler. And he's about to do a lap on the medium tyres. No, he's not. He's coming in because he's done another scrub set there. So Aston Martin's strategy for tomorrow, we'll run the hard tyre and we'll run the medium tyre, and we've just now put a heat treatment through them and we'll tuck them back into the blankets.
Indeed.
Strategy is easy at Monza, isn't it?
Yeah. One stop.
Yeah.
Well, when do you do it? Actually, the only thing is, if we get, that's where it gets fun, right? If you get a red flag or a safety car and things like that, that's when it gets a bit spicy.
So this is Carlos Sainz with the yellow on his crash helmet for this week, as opposed to Charles Leclerc, who is more predominantly black on his crash helmet for this week. Rumours that Ferrari were going to run an all-black livery didn't appear to be true.
Thank God.
Yes,
Oh, come on. Ferrari can't run a black livery in Monza.
They ran a yellow one.
Yeah, but come on. It needs to be red.
I couldn't agree more, to be honest, but all this weight saving, Nico, that's going on at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's just got to be red.
Right.
It's really simple.
Let's see a lap, and a whole lap, with Nico Rosberg and the man on pole last year, Carlos Sainz.
Okay, here we go. So now he's reaching top speed. Of course, he's going to go over 340 kph. And then it's the braking point. You know, it's at 120 meters. You slam the brake, and once you slam the brake, you're committed. He's made it stick, so he hits that first apex. You got to hit it in the right place. Second apex, and then straight line the car to get the traction down, because it's so important to get traction down to get back onto this long straight with maximum speed. And very, very smooth here now through this corner. You have to scrub minimum speed off, and now you're adjusting the brake balance a little bit forward for the second part, because it's a bit different in braking. Again, nailing that braking point, hitting the curb in the first on the right, all good, and running maximum to the outside. And now you have these two Lesmos where you light braking, hug the inside, and maximum on the power as quickly as possible. Here, super short, boom, brake in. It's like really like robotic inputs in that corner that is so like so sharp. It's almost like a 90-degree. Again here, down the straight now, this is so hard to see the right braking point here because you have shadows, you don't see the board very well, so you brake at 110, slam the brake, carry that speed over that inside curve, and then you're dancing the rear across that middle part of the corner. The rear is like stepping out, and you need to keep it flat, otherwise you lose too much time, and then over the curve in the last part. Parabolica, super difficult entry, you need to be so committed, and then the rear steps out. You can see a little bit of corrections there on the steering wheel, and then you need to use maximum amount of track all the way to the outside to really let the car flow, and that's 0.5 of a second behind Max Verstappen with a soft, which is not a good way to start the session.
That lap, commentary deserved a better lap time to come from Carlos Sainz there. Given that you got in to Monza at 3:30 a.m. Last night, the energy there, Nico Rosberg, has just woken us all up. Thank you very much indeed.
Great, but I just had a snooze in the commentary booth.
I wasn't going to mention it.
As you walked in.
Did he kick you and wake you up?
Yes.
He was not happy you were sleeping in the car.
No.
I needed to get to work. Right, this session's getting going now. We're seeing some faster laps. George Russell has gone quickest from his teammate Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Nico Rosberg is energised by what's going on, and Oscar Piastri says, fair enough, I'll deliver the quickest time so far with a 1:20.8. Not bad.
The Ferrari time is a bit confusing, isn't it? I wonder if there's something odd going on there with engine mode, or maybe carrying a bit more fuel to do, I don't know, multiple laps or something, because look at the gap, 1.2 seconds to Piastri. That's not the same run plan.
Verstappen goes second fastest, but why would you do more than... Why would you fill up the car with a lot of fuel to put a soft tyre on? It's not necessarily something you're going to do in the race.
Well, they have a lot of new bits on the car, so maybe they're still having to try something for the race, and they just want to make sure that it's all good.
How much of a disadvantage are you at a place like Monza if you're still struggling for the right setup when we get into FP3?
Well, we just heard before, you know, how important qualifying is also at this venue, and by now you really need to be fully committed in prepping qualifying, because it's such a difficult track. It only has a few corners, but it's actually so hard, especially with the braking. And the braking in F1 is a huge challenge, and there's so many big brakings here. And you want to say something, Drew?
Well, I was just saying, I think that some of them are also getting in position for the slipstream and the toe. But I was noticing Sainz has been sitting behind Gasly on this particularly slow lap that they're doing, and I wonder if he's preparing to do a push lap now and pick up the benefit of the toe. And there, when we were on board with Piastri, there was also this group of cars, and Nico, that, you know, it's very hard for people to plan and orchestrate the toe, because more often than not it goes wrong. But if you do get it right, it can be worth a big chunk of time here, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So it's something you need to practice, and something you do need to keep in mind in qualifying at all times. You also learn to measure the distance, between the car just disappearing through Parabolica and where you are, And the team will tell you that it needs to be 3.5–4 seconds, and so you practice that as well to get that distance exactly right then for qualifying.
Good chat, boys, but let's have a look at this graphic. Who has backed off quite a bit? Aston Martin by ½ a second. Sauber have got slower as well. It could ill afford to. McLaren and Red Bull right up there.
Yeah, but it looked a bit misrepresentative, I thought, because Red Bull, from my feeling-wise, would have almost lost even more than that. But anyways, McLaren, yes, have done an incredible leap forwards, again, as they have been since the end of last year as well. Very impressive, their development rate, how they're converting what they're developing in the factory, to racetrack pace. It's just unbelievable correlation there. And I heard again this morning that it's like it's a copy of the Red Bull car, that McLaren. Even geometry, rear geometry, everything. But yet they're doing an even better job than Red Bull. And I hear rumors from other teams that it's also linked to the front wing and the movement in there.
Movements, they all move a little bit, of course, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were Red Bull influences on that McLaren car, given that their chief designer is Rob Marshall, who used to be at Red Bull and moved over, of course, to Woking and started on the 1st of January this year. Charles Leclerc crosses the line and fourth fastest, just as his teammate Carlos Sainz was when he did his lap. Sainz now down in 8th.
But this comes back to the conversation we were having yesterday, Crofty, in FP2 about the difference between the soft and the medium isn't so pronounced around here, and this is something that the Mercedes engineers were saying is just with the way the asphalt is, this closed asphalt, and the different type of stone they've used for the sub base here. We're not seeing the high temperatures as Lewis attacks the curve pretty high there. We'll see a nice slow-mo, I'm sure.
But you can get away with that now. Get away with that with the lower curbs now, can't you?
That was super interesting. So this is Lewis trying to see if maybe there's actually a completely different line that one could take through there, which we've never been able to try for the last 25 years. And he said, hey, this curve is different. Let's give it a go, see where we get to.
But just to finish up, we're not seeing a big gap maybe between the two types of tyres. Because Verstappen and Russell on the mediums, second and third, you know, not far off Piastri's time, although Norris is going quicker on this lap.
Yeah, and Nico Hülkenberg too, whether he picked up a toe down the straight behind Charles Leclerc. I'm not sure, he's just overtaken Leclerc through the second Lesmo as Norris goes a tenth of a second faster than his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri. And we can head down to the pit lane. Ted Kravitz, one of your old friends, standing outside the garage that used to be his.
Peter Sauber, yes. I was just going to mention Franco Colapinto, seeing as we're looking at him out on the soft tyres. That clearly indicates Williams' intentions for him is just to give him as much practice as possible going into his first F1 qualifying, what kind of grip he's going to get from those soft tyres. But yes, it's quite the scene. Throwback central outside Sauber. You've got Peter Sauber, who was in charge when they were good. With BMW, better. And you've got Mattia Binotto at the back in charge when they hope to be good again, handing over to Sauber. And not to bury the lead on this one, Crofty, what's Kimi Räikkönen doing here?
Why not?
Well, I know, but, you know, once retired, very seldom seen in Formula One. I can give you half an answer to that. He's not thinking of making a driver comeback or looking to get into team management or do any interviews, because that was the last thing he wanted to do when he was even when he was a driver and he was paid to do them. He's here because he's affiliated one of Sauber's sponsors. So that's half the reason why he's here. The other half, of course, is to enjoy the magic of Monza with the rest of us.
Quite. Half a tenth in between Carlos Sainz now and Lando Norris as Sainz goes to the top of the timing standings. George Russell, meanwhile, has put in a couple of personal bests. His teammate Lewis Hamilton a tenth up in the middle sector. Russell crosses the line and goes quickest by 0.03 of a second. Honestly, this is going to be very, very tight come qualifying today as Hamilton crosses the line. Third fastest, there is less than a tenth of a second now separating the top four.
Amazing. Am I right in saying Kimi's last career pole was in Monza?
Yeah, you might say that.
I think it was, wasn't it, that year when Ferrari got 1-2?
Yeah.
And they got the strategy wrong and Seb gave him the slipstream, even though Seb was a title contender.
Yes, it wasn't meant to work out that way. We see Franco Colapinto getting a little bit too far to the left and dipping a rear tyre into the gravel, and he's not the only one to have done that this weekend.
I'm very impressed with George Russell, who we're just seeing now. Let's see him through this. This corner is so difficult. Wow, and then he gets that big snap on the exit there. Very impressed because yesterday he got only like 4 push laps in total with all different curves around this track, all different tarmac and everything. And now this morning, once again, he's just completely on it and seems to be on the same level as Lewis already. So I think he's once again looking very strong on one lap.
So George Russell's got a new teammate for next year, and it hasn't surprised any of us, I don't think, that it's Andrea Kimi Antonelli that has been announced. I found it slightly strange, but Toto Wolff said he made up his mind within 5 minutes of Lewis Hamilton's retirement, then proceeded to talk to pretty much every other available driver in the paddock, including Max Verstappen over the summer.
Yeah, I would frame it as that I made up my mind that I would love for that to work out. You know, that we can put Kimi in the car. But of course, he still needed to do the homework because the Lewis info from Lewis came as a shock. We hadn't planned for that. So the thought was, okay, I would love to put Kimi in, but then of course we'd still need to do a lot of homework after that. Also still trying to get Max Verstappen, etc. but that's how I would see it. But anyways, I mean, it's a brave choice, but yeah, I guess the right choice and the exciting choice. It's the only exciting choice. Because that guy, as I said, he was in my go-karting team, and he can easily be the best of the next generation. Yeah, and an F1 great with the talent he has. Of course, it's very early to say that. So it's worth a try.
Do you think Toto Wolff Karoon has given up on Max Verstappen, or could there be a renewed interest maybe for 2026?
I don't think he's given up on Max Verstappen. No, I think he couldn't get him now. I kind of agree with your skepticism on that comment he made. I think his first thought 5 minutes later was, "Can I get Max?"
Yeah.
And probably the next thought was, "Can we prepare Kimi for next year if we can't get Max?" I'm not doubting that he didn't think of Kimi being an option straight away. But I do think that his first option would have been, "Can I get Max?"
Do you think George Russell's safe for 2026? Could it be a Max and Kimi?
Well, no, George Russell is not safe at all because Toto still wants Max, and he will try again for 2026 because give up does not appear in Toto's vocabulary.
Correct.
And so it's pretty much then if Max does become available, and I do think it's a possibility, then it is a shootout between George and Kimi next year. And it's a lot of pressure on George because he has everything to lose really next year. You know, he should be the one ahead team internally because Kimi is 18 and he's completely new and in full pressure situation. So it's not an easy situation then for George.
Charles Leclerc goes fastest by less than a tenth of a second from George Russell, while his brother Arthur watches on from the Ferrari garage. So Toto might have actually created something that's a situation where both drivers can spur each other on and perform at their highest over the course of the season, because both, technically from the outside, their contract is up at the end of next year.
Yeah, but you have an 18-year-old guy there. I don't think you need to spur him much. Yeah, I mean,
you need to
unspur him a little bit, as we saw yesterday. Yeah, at times I've been shaking my head now watching Kimi in his press conference because I can just relate so much with the pressure that he can feel, you know, in that situation, and it's extreme. It's obviously extreme, and personally, I would not have handled it in that situation at 18. That would have been, for me personally, too early, but that doesn't mean that it would have been too early for him. So I hope that he's a bit stronger mentally than I would have been at the time, and that he can get it done, and I believe he can.
I like seeing bold driver choices, though. I loved when McLaren put Lewis in. You know, I think so often teams do the conservative thing in terms of choosing drivers, and it's nice to see people dice and take a bold decision, I think.
Alex Albon is at Williams for next season alongside Carlos Sainz. We'll just see the Williams to the ends of his first flying lap in this session, and he goes 8th fastest, half a second off the pace. Good effort from Alex Albon. Let's go to the Mercedes garage. Bradley Lord is with us this weekend, masterminding this morning's press conference with Kimi Antonelli being announced. We like the bold choice, I think, is the view from our experts in the commentary box. Bradley, when did you make up your mind that Kimi was the right man? About 5 seconds after Toto, 5 minutes after Lewis left?
Actually, we ended up, Kimi was F3 testing when the news broke about Lewis, and I remember sitting in a meeting with Toto in his office and sort of sketching out the possibility that this could be what we did for 2025 all the way back in February. So, and he looked pretty excited then, and Kimi looked equally excited today.
Got to ask the question though, because you go everywhere with Toto, you know every move that he makes. Why, after making up his mind, did he still want to go and chat to a lot of other drivers, including Max, over the summer?
That's the diligence you need to do. You know, that was the ideal for us, was promoting Kimi, but we didn't know if he'd be ready, if he'd show what was needed in the TPC program in F2 as well. So while that might be the intention and the plan, there's still lots of other conversations to be had to make sure we're making the right call, even if the gut feel one was that.
Bradley, what did he show yesterday? Were there any flashes of brilliance that you could see there on the data in those 2 laps? Because it is comparable, because Lewis was out at the same time, and it looked fast at times.
It looked fast, and then it was a bit too fast, Nico, wasn't it?
No, come on, serious question.
No, I know. I think Kimi was obviously pushing right to the limit yesterday at the start of the session where other drivers weren't, but from what we can see, even at the end of the session, his speed through Ascari on that lap when he did then have the accident was quicker than any other car managed all the way through the hour. So that says a certain amount, but obviously it's a tiny fraction of data, and as he said himself, he'd rather, if he could redo it, he'd go at it a bit more gently, build up a little bit more than he did yesterday. But, you know, it's the learning and it's all part of the journey.
Now, Bradley, how are you going to rebuild his confidence between now and Mexico? Not that he seems to be shy on confidence, but just to just try and get him past what happened yesterday and mentally arrive in Mexico in a better frame. Are there more test days planned between now and Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think his confidence particularly needs rebuilding. It's just the calibrating the sort of appetite for risk early on. He's feeling good, and you know, he can ride off what happened yesterday. There is more TPC coming between now and Mexico. He's got some sessions out in the Middle East ahead of Austin, and then yeah, he'll be with us in Austin and then in the car on Friday morning in Mexico.
TPC sounds like a bad antiseptic. Testing of previous cars, right?
Sorry, yeah, it's too much jargon, isn't it? It's what we're allowed to do with a 2-year-old car. So driving the 2022 car in test conditions to get, you know, to get him used to F1 machinery and various of the circuits as well. So it's exactly as Oscar Piastri did before his McLaren debut, as Jack Doohan, I'm sure, is doing with Alpine as well. It's a pretty standard thing that we do now for young drivers to really try and bring them up to speed, because we just are allowed to go testing as we used to 20 years ago.
And just finally, Bradley, overnight, what changed on the car? What have you needed to look at and address to make sure you're still up at the top come qualifying?
Top bumps was part of it, but otherwise it was really just tweaks to the balance and to the balance of the car, just to get the drivers a bit more comfortable. It looks pretty good so far, both on medium tyres and putting competitive times in. George has just headed out to do a sort of mini long run because he was a bit compromised yesterday. Lewis going out still doing some lower fuel work on the used medium. So this is now really just set up fine tuning, but it was only small changes that we needed because obviously things looked pretty decent yesterday as well.
Interesting. Bradley, thanks ever so much. Speak to you a little later on, direct from the Mercedes garage, DRS open for Oscar Piastri. He's the latest to go for a lap here. Piastri, who last year qualified 7th, finished 11th. His teammate Lando Norris qualified 9th, finished 8th. And both said this really wasn't one of our better racetracks. So we're not expecting brilliant things from this weekend, but you know, so far they're very much in the hunt. Talking of hunting, Ted Kravitz, what are you hunting for down at the
Well, I've spied an interesting scene at Alpine, who come here with not high expectations because of the limitations of their power unit, self-declared. There's Pierre Gasly, but two very interesting people at the back of the garage watching over, and the chap in the white shirt is the Renault boss, Luca De Meo, and the chap with the white hair next to him is his executive advisor, otherwise known as the man who used to run this team, Flavio Briatore. So, you know, penny for the thoughts of the two men who are deciding what happens in the outcome of the Renault Works Formula One team, which is what Alpine is. And yeah, you would have hoped that they would come to a racetrack where the team might expect a better result, but well, it's certainly not looking at the moment. What is it, Gasly 16th, 17th? We'll see what happens in qualifying, of course. Nothing is given. We can't make too many presuppositions. But
Ted, if I was going to be a cynic, though, and you were going to announce the closure of the F1 engine facility at Viry-Châtillon, doing it after a race where that engine hasn't performed as well as some others, might actually be a very timely coincidence.
Gosh, that is cynical. I mean, you know, I know what you mean, but haven't they already done that, more or less? Didn't Bruno Flammen, before he was before he left as previous team principal at Alpine, more or less say at Spa, Crofty, that Viry-Châtillon, who up to this point have been making great engines and who had plans and a 2026 engine that the people at Viry-Châtillon say is destined for greatness, it's going to be benched, and yeah, that's not going to be what they're going to be doing anymore. They'll have to find some use for the factory. You can't just shut it down completely. Well, I suppose they could. That's pretty expensive. But yeah, it's partly what Flavio and Luca De Meo are deciding what to do with the engine manufacturing plant at Viry-Châtillon.
Well, maybe go and sell it to another team.
Luca De Meo, I think I'm right in saying he's from Monza. He's you know, from certainly not far from where we're standing right now, and is a racing man through and through. So I think he wants to find a way to make a success of that team. And listen, if one of their weaknesses seems to be power unit. There's also rumors about gearbox and you know, time being lost on upshifts and things like that. If you went to get the back end out of this car that we're seeing on screen, engine, gearbox, you know, ERS systems and cooling systems, rear suspension, all the rest of it, you've got a reference, haven't you? It's doing well in the Mercedes and the McLaren. In terms of pure performance, it's a no-brainer, but from the optics, that then doesn't make you a works team anymore. You're no longer a factory manufacturer works team representing the third biggest automotive group on the planet, which is the Renault-Nissan alliance.
And the sad thing for me, Nico, is that the 2026 regulations with the new engines were meant to attract more manufacturers into the sport. We have Audi and Honda are staying, and then we might lose Renault. So it's, you know, net status quo, isn't it? There's Stefano Domenicali to come in and join in the conversation as well, and Greg Maffei, his boss at Liberty Media, also in the back of that garage. But to me, it would be a huge shame to lose Renault either as an engine manufacturer or as a team in Formula One.
Yeah, of course it would be a huge shame because yeah, I mean, it's been such a successful engine company, and we want to have variety in the sport, obviously, and having a Mercedes in the back of the Alpine, that makes no sense to me. That is just completely wrong. And also that long-term won't work for the team anyways, because they're in here for marketing, and that's not going to work for marketing, to have a Mercedes engine in the Alpine, because you're anti-marketing. Our engines are not good enough. I mean, that's like anti-marketing.
Yeah, but that's back to the rumours that maybe the whole team are up for sale to someone else.
It's in my email. I have a secondary opportunity in my email to buy what's part of Alpine.
Do you?
Yeah.
You can't just lob that into FP3 commentary.
Yeah.
You've just been sent an email saying, would you like to buy a bit of Alpine?
Yes. But actually, I could...
Are you buying it?
No.
How much?
I should have brought the details.
Yeah.
I can do that tomorrow.
Well, it's in your email. Where's your phone? Let's get it out.
So even the Alpine is highly profitable. Of course, that can all change. You find this very interesting.
Yeah, Brian, there's a contract. You can start showing us email on the contract.
Ryan Reynolds, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Nico Rosberg. I mean, how many more superstar owners does this team need? You've slept your way into this.
Would you like to see the details?
I'd love to see the details.
Okay, well, we'll think about it.
Okay, good.
And we promise we won't take pictures and post it on social media later. Right, while we've been talking about Nico's next business opportunity, and as your new de facto business manager, I think you should do it. I really do. Alex Albon has put in the fastest lap with a 120.5. He's 18 thousandths of a second ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's just coming out of the garage now. George Russell continuing on the medium tyres with some race runs, and Lewis Hamilton on slightly lesser fuel, as we were told. The team McLaren 6th and 7th. Oscar Piastri had quite a moment, didn't he, in the gravel at the second Lesmo?
Yeah, big snap of oversteer there, got the wheel off, but carried on. So this is going to be an interesting lap to watch. Franco Colapinto, because Alex Albon set a benchmark at the top of the times with a 20.59, and we'll get to see where Colapinto is as a reference now.
Well, I tell you what, then, now that he's finished buying up a share of the Alpine team, Nico is back with us, back in the moments. I was going to say, taking us through this lap with Franco Colapinto. But maybe he's had the email as well, and he's coming back into the garage.
You got excited about it too.
Exactly. Oh, I'm guessing for next season I'll buy the team.
You know why he's invested in the story? Is they have a special bowl of sweets for Crofty in the motorhome at Alpine.
No way.
And he just wants to make sure whoever the new owners are keep the sweets for him when he goes there.
Okay, I understand. I will make sure to note that.
This Mercedes is driving on the normal racing line.
Yeah, fairly standard, Max.
And that is Max and GP.
We love this. We love this Max and GP back and forth. Huh?
Come on, it's on the straight that he's complaining about it.
Yes, the new motorhome at Alpine, they are unveiling properly. It's had its soft launch the last couple of races. So this weekend is the big launch, and there is a bowl on the counter that says Crofty Sweets by it.
It actually says Crofty Sweets.
It says Crofty Sweets.
This is amazing.
Because I did ask, it's all well and good having a new multi-million-pound motorhome, but where's the draw with the Haribos? All right, we'll give you a little bowl. Not a problem. Let's have a lap with Lewis Hamilton then.
So Lewis learned his lesson that the turn 1 curve should not be taken more. He tried that and decided, okay, that's not going to work, so he just took it normally there.
He had a go yesterday as well. Do you think he's saving that for the special soft tire push laps?
Sometimes you can do that.
Because Montreal, he used to do that. Remember, you remember, Profi, that we used to commentate on the outside of last chicane.
Yep.
And there'd be those times where Lewis would choose the lap and go bang on the last curve, take the risk, and it would pay dividends. And maybe he doesn't want to do it lap after lap in the race.
But it's hard, huh? It's hard to not practice such a different line and then get it right in qualifying just on one lap. Very, very hard to do.
7 poles here in the past for Lewis Hamilton. Vastly experienced, of course, in Formula One, but you're never too old to learn new tricks. And all the drivers are saying we can explore this track a little bit in the next 3 sessions.
But this is a Lewis track. Where he was phenomenal here on this track is in braking. Because braking is so difficult in an F1 car, it's so short, split-second reactions required in braking, because you're braking from 360 down to 80 in the space of, I don't even know how much it is, must be like 1 second, 1 second. And all along, you're so close to the edge, as we see Ferrari pop to the top of the timesheets with Sainz and Leclerc equally.
Is that a bit more where you expect Ferrari to be, around the mid-120s at this point?
He's only 0.13 ahead of Albon, and I know the Williams, we expect to be quick here. It's a low drag track, and they were in the top 10 last time, but I would have expected them to be a bit further ahead. I mean, we're still 22 minutes to go, so we'll see when the session unfolds, if they put on another set of tyres and maybe find a bit more speed. I think pole's going to be the mid-19s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once they turn the engines up for quali.
Pole last year was a 120.2. Carlos Sainz.
Let me just take you through the braking one more time quickly. So you get there 360, you choose your braking point, then you slam it as hard as you can with your left leg. You slam into the brake pedal. There he braked at 120. And then all you can do then, once you've decided that braking point, you have a minimal opportunity to slightly modulate, but you're so close to the limit all the time that it's almost like, okay, just trying to survive to make the corner. But you have slight ability to modulate, and you super fast reactions and feel where that front limitation is, as you saw with Perez now. So he carried too much speed and then had to slow down again towards the end, and then that's when he locked up the front tire, and then you're gone. Then that lap is done. So it's such a fine line to get that right, and the risk of losing the complete lap in braking is huge. There's a tiny lockup, and you lose tenths of a second or go straight on completely.
It could be over before he starts here at Monza, pretty much. Well, first corner.
That's a bit extreme, but kind of.
No, in terms of qualifying, not the race. You can always come back.
Now let's have a look at this. Look at Red Bull, the advantage they had in the middle of the championship. In the constructors, now McLaren is like, whoop, right there, and are fully on course to win the constructors championship. McLaren, that is incredible. Like, I would have bet my house probably against that at the beginning of the season. But not that I do have a house, but
don't bet the house. You'll need it as equity for the stake in Alpine that you're going to take. Right, we sorted all that.
Yeah,
out.
it's pricey, huh? Alpine. Do you want to know how much?
Yeah.
No, I can't say. But no, I'm just kidding. Close to $1 billion.
Close to $1 billion.
Yeah.
What, the value of the team?
Yeah. Well, all of them are.
Yeah. Well,
all of them are.
You might say
it's profitable.
Or Ferrari are going to be way more than that. Mercedes, etc. But yeah. How much can you afford of it? I'm chipping.
I could take the whole thing, but I think it would be pushing things a little bit.
Chats you never thought you'd have in Monza on a Saturday.
You have to give up the ice cream shop.
Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are 1 and 2 at the moment. Alex Albon still up there for Williams, third fastest. So it is very hot conditions out in those grandstands. Those fans are going to need a lot of sun cream today. But the prancing horse going well so far. Sainz and Leclerc. You were looking at some times on your phone for a minute there, Karim Chandler.
Well, I was just looking actually at the tyre situation. There's so many different run plans going on out there. Red Bull haven't run the softs, neither have Mercedes, and Ferrari have sort of carried over a set of used softs into multiple runs to do some balance checks. So I think the times are obviously representative, but it is a little bit tricky to read, and I think we'll have to wait for the last 10 minutes when we might see some convergence in terms of tyre usage to see where they end up.
Ferrari are coming out line astern again, Nico. So when Carlos Sainz set his fastest time, Charles Leclerc was on the track behind him, and they've come out with Sainz ahead of Leclerc this time around. Are they practicing some slipstream?
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like they are practicing, and it's just about also getting a feel for the right gap to the guy in front. No, but it's so risky. And we've seen Ferrari do it in the past year, but it's so risky to try that because it can, of course, it can reap great benefit, but it can also go very wrong.
My seat is very hot again.
So Mercedes have some problem this weekend on some hot air around the seat area, because Lewis was shouting about it yesterday. He said it's been incredibly hot in the car around the seat. And sometimes it's difficult to understand and also where it actually is coming from for the engineers.
Some heat soak isn't working. So is the obvious solution not to spend a long time looking at it from a car perspective, but what can you put on the driver's back to protect them from the heat?
Yeah, exactly. So you straight away, of course, will put, but the seats actually have that anyways. They have the aluminium radiating foil heat shield on the back of the seat. So that's a natural one, and then you just have to add some layers then on all the electronical boxes and things like that around when you're not really sure where it's coming from.
One thing,
Ferrari are practicing the toe, and the Williams has got in the way there.
yeah, Colapinto in between, but they're sticking with a set of tyres properly, and so you know this ABS will give us a reference, right? You know, Sainz now, this is his 10th lap on the set of softs. They do a 20.4 on motorability in his 8th lap on the set of soft is actually a pretty competitive time. So that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit hard to actually judge the absolute times. We'll see towards the last 10 minutes when they put new tyres on.
Round the Curva Grande he goes on his way to the second of the chicanes. Couple of tenths off the pace for the first sector, which you would expect given Karun the age of these tyres.
Colapinto's first sector is pretty good, 26.6 for him. That's comparable to what we saw from Albon earlier on, couple of tenths shy, but that's what you'd expect him to be, 2-3 tenths off.
Yeah, he's just making his way around the second of the Lesmo corners at the moment, Franco Colapinto, and on his way to the Ascari chicane. Carlos Sainz is through there, a couple of tenths down. Colapinto, 27.3 in that middle sector, which was 3 tenths down on Carlos Sainz.
It clears.
Focusing on Carlos Sainz here, who is a couple of tenths off the pace, but his teammate Charles Leclerc has found the fastest middle sector, and Sainz finds the fastest final sector. So track may be improving all the time as Colapinto goes 8th fastest with a 120.9. Leclerc quickest overall by 2 and a bit tenths on tyres that have done
13 laps.
13 laps. Wow, it's impressive.
Yep.
Wow. Track evolution, I think, is going to carry on throughout today, given the fact that it was resurfaced completely. So Ferrari, are we saying low degradation, higher track evolution as the rubber goes down, or are they just saving a little bit till the magic moment? I don't know.
They're in the game. I think that's the thing we can say, right? If they're able to deliver these laps and get quicker and quicker, if they're tracking the track evolution, you know, and not struggling with the deck because they are improving, that's a strong indication that your car is balanced and you're not falling off the cliff of grip. So I think what we can conclude, ignoring the absolute lap time, is that Ferrari are definitely in the game. Mercedes looks so strong on the mediums, they're definitely in the game. Let's see what Lando and Oscar can do, because they're on a set of softs which are brand new. So this is going to be an interesting reference, I think, on this lap. Norris coming through the second left, a bit of dust up ahead. Somebody's gone wide there. Might have been Ricardo, who's
going quite slowly, yeah.
And then as we come up the hill, yeah, look, 10th and a half up on this brand new set of softs.
But only a 10th and a half.
Yeah.
Should have been more than that.
Then coming towards Parabolica, that was Piastri getting fully out of the way. It's interesting, Piastri not giving his teammate a slipstream there on the run to Parabolica, so there's no orchestration going on at McLaren. Coming through, takes the shortest line, stays to the right-hand side, and goes second. So lost time in the final sector.
That was not good.
No.
They must be running less engine power or more fuel or something substantially, because that otherwise would be not looking very good.
Ted, let's head down to you.
Elsewhere in the pit lane, final changes to setups are being made, Crofty, and none less than Max Verstappen, who's still trying to find some front end in the car. Made a change to the front suspension. I think has made a bit of a change, putting some weight forward in the nose as well. So is it working? Is it going to work? We're about to find out. Here comes Max out of the garage on a new set of softs. We're about to get that answer I've been looking for all weekend, Crofty.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much, Ted. Race control have noted a potential impeding situation. Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, and Daniel Ricciardo all involved in that. Piastri's on a flying lap currently, but is at least a couple of tenths, I think, behind Charles Leclerc and his fastest lap. We're watching Yuki Tsunoda, who, to be fair to Yuki Tsunoda, is not massively off the pace there as well. Another decent middle sector from him in the RB. Well, first sector, I should say, from him in the RB as through the Les Mo's he goes, and Oscar Piastri round the parabolica, the final corner, towards the line he goes, and ends up second fastest, 2/100ths of a second away from Charles Leclerc.
And 100 ahead of his teammate.
Wow. Honestly, if it carries on like this, the only guarantee going into qualifying is it's going to be so close. And then it's down to the driver, isn't it?
But that was on new tyres compared to the Ferraris, who are both, tyres that have done more than 10 laps. So, what does that tell you about the Ferrari pace?
Well, it can tell us that Ferrari have way more pace than we think, or it could tell us that the McLarens are a bit heavier than the Ferraris were, or the engine modes have been turned down a touch on the McLarens.
A combination of all the above.
What would your guess be?
Well, Karun just told me that Lando was only 2 kilometers per hour slower down the straight than Leclerc. So that would tell you that the engine was not really turned down much.
This is Charles Leclerc. You can tell that Charles Leclerc has got the Italian
Piastri
flag
pushing,
on
let
his
Piastri through.
I thought he was further away. My bad.
Piastri did a bit of a payback there. Said, hey, you see that, how he went like right in front of him and slowed down?
Oh, this is what we're going to see here.
That's horrible. Well, although honestly, come on, that's fine. I mean, not perfect, but of course, there's been much worse than that.
Yeah. So Piastri was edging over to that left-hand side.
Ooh, that's what happened. I thought I saw Dustin.
I will shifted with Oscar.
We had Kevin Magnussen and Haas fined yesterday for impeding.
I think he was trying to get her Daniel's way.
Yeah, I think
to be fair to Oscar, I think he looked in the left mirror. If you watch his head in, I won't get it again, but his head was looked left to Daniel. And then I think he spotted Leclerc too late there.
Yeah.
But much more exciting would have been to say that Oscar is trying to show Leclerc what's what.
You say that.
Your version was the boring one.
Magnussen, by the way, and Haas fined yesterday because nobody told Kevin Magnussen there was another car coming. So that he could try and get out of the way.
Here we go, Mercedes.
Yes.
Now we're going to see what they can do.
And
Lewis is quicker than George.
And Max also on a lap too.
Piastri pushing, let Piastri through.
A little bit of a slipstream and a distant
I thought he was further away.
George, who disappears now through the parabolica. Takes a nice line around the outside there, but not too far towards the extremities. Crosses the line, 16,000ths of a second ahead of Charles Leclerc. Hamilton next across the line, puts a bit more distance between himself and Charles Leclerc, a tenth of a second, just less than a tenth. Hamilton to Russell, Ricciardo goes 11th fastest, and Max Verstappen not exactly setting the timing charts ablaze, but there's always the final sector, Karun Chandler.
Yeah, he's a couple of tenths down in the first 2 sectors. We'll see if he's kept some tyre grip in reserve to attack the parabolica. Car looked pretty balanced through there, but the time's not there, Crofty. 2.5 tenths away from Lewis Hamilton.
He's shaking his head.
Felt pretty rubbish. Balance is quite a long way off.
Wow, how interesting. This FP3, this is unbelievable.
Max Verstappen, front row last year, pole in 2021 here. But at the moment, the Red Bull just doesn't look to have the pace of the Ferrari, the Mercedes, or the McLaren.
Let's see what Norris can do on this lap, because he's having another go on the same set of tyres. As we saw earlier, the Ferraris were able to keep improving with the track evolution. Norris's first sector, though, half a second down, so I don't think he's going to do it on this particular lap. Let's see, no one else. Ocon's on a lap, no one else seems to be going.
Nico, thank you. It's been lovely having you in the commentary box, but Simon Lazenby needs you more. He's off. And to the paddock, and you can hear Nico, Simon and Toto Wolff in conversation after this session.
The footsteps of the Alpine communication team chasing Nico down the paddock.
Meeting speeds.
Not to mention the business and finance team. That's a more important message, though. The car doesn't seem to turn in medium speed or high speed. Max Verstappen giving a report on where he sees the problems with that Red Bull car.
It's running out of time, isn't it, to try and fix the problems? Obviously, they've still got 2 hours before the qualifying session starts and Parc Fermé begins. So Parc Fermé starts when the car crosses the line at the end of the pit lane. So they've got 2 hours to make changes to the car. Look at the slipstream that Leclerc's picked up from Ocon.
And that was just on a preparation, that was on an outlap from Charles Leclerc. Piastri through the first sector has picked up the best time so far, 26.4.
That's a very good first sector, but we saw this yesterday. If they did 26.4s in sector 1, as Piastri did yesterday, he didn't have the grip towards the end. Let's see, up to Ascari, no traffic up ahead, nice. Boy on the way in, but then a snap of oversteer at the right hand. So that would have compromised his run. He's lost time in the middle sector, Croppy. 27.1 is a couple tenths shy of what we've seen from other people. So maybe the tyre's not quite hanging on. Into Parabolica, fires it in, uses more width on the way out of the corner, and he has aborted this lap. So clearly on the dashboard he's seen that it wasn't going to be an improvement.
Nico Hülkenberg also did a 26.4 in the first sector. He lost a bit more time in the middle sector. Carlos Sainz has picked up a bit of a slipstream. He might actually have backed off a bit. Hülkenberg goes 10th fastest overall. Yeah, Sainz has backed off in that middle sector as Lando Norris comes past him at the moment. And this is Oscar Piastri at the second chicane. He just loses half a tenth by getting that wheel into the gravel.
Yeah, just dropped the wheel off there. That would have hurt the short run up to Lesmo. We haven't seen anything from Perez yet, have we? So he's on track at the moment. I think he is just starting a lap, so we'll see what he can do. Verstappen and the McLarens are in the pits. This is Perez at the first chicane. So his earlier run was only a tenth off Max on the medium. So we'll see what this run is like. Colapinto, by the way, 3 tenths behind Albon. Both Williamses in the top 10 at the moment.
And no grip for Sergio Perez as he tried to get the power down out of the first chicane. And you can tell from his time there how much he would have lost with that. And then he's gone over that chicane as well. Red Bull look a little bit all at sea here, to be honest. Not just with Perez on this lap, but with Max Verstappen as well. And Zandvoort, you know, I saw plenty of clips on social media of Max Verstappen trying to turn the car in and it just not responding to the way he would have wanted it. And I wonder if there's that same issue coming his way again here.
I mean, no Red Bull in the top 5 at the moment. And, yeah, it's... you know, it kind of feels like this is a championship where if Max wins, it'll be one that he's hung on to by, you know, rather than pure pace and performance, because, yeah, at this point, it doesn't look like, again, on a very different track to Zandvoort, literally the opposite end of the downforce spectrum. They haven't got the performance again of Mercedes or McLaren.
We can't see the Red Bull pit wall from where we are in the commentary box. I don't know if Ted is clocking a look at the faces there, but I would imagine they'll be quite concerned at the way this session has gone. This is Lance Stroll. He's been reported for not following the race director's instructions. He basically came back onto the track too early there and should have carried on and rejoined the track a little later on that runoff area. Ted at Red Bull.
To answer your question, yes, I am still at Red Bull. So the most concerned man at the moment is Helmut Marko, who in the garage garage next to GP Lambiase is looking at Max Verstappen, who's giving the feedback in the car. And Penny for Helmut Marko's thoughts as to what is going on. How can it be that this car that was super responsive earlier in the season now won't turn? That's 2 races in a row, isn't it, Crofty? Where Max has been vocal on the radio about this car will not turn. And yeah, so they've actually just gone back on one of those changes they made to the front of the car in terms of putting a bit of weight in the nose cone. They've gone back on that change on Verstappen's car. And well, to answer your question on the pit wall, I can't see much reaction because they've all got their backs to me. I can't see the new Sauber team principal Jonathan Wheatley there. I could ask him what he thinks, but he's probably thinking about his new job at Sauber. But I think it's so weird, isn't it? We've got a new team principal, F1's newest team principal, Jonathan Wheatley, still sat there in his old team. Absolutely. No, his old team, his current team. His current team. And it could not be more 2 team principals on that Red Bull. The team that's currently leading the Constructors' Championship and the one that hasn't scored a point all season. George Russell, 10th of a second off as he crosses the line. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are practicing the toe on this occasion on their flying laps.
Just a quick one, that both Stroll and Perez have been noted by the stewards because they've made a change overnight with the rules. They put a bollard down in the runoff area at the second chicane, and if the drivers cut across that gravel strip, they're meant to go slightly to the right to go around a green bollard that's now been placed, and looks like neither of those drivers have done that. So, in fact, we saw Perez not doing that.
Yeah, we saw Lance Stroll not doing it as well.
Yeah. So they'll have a bit of explaining to do afterwards.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it will turn into a grid penalty. It doesn't tend to. Meanwhile, this is the Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri moment. That's going to be investigated after the session. I'm with you, Kareem.
Gosh.
And for info, Leclerc also impeding Piastri just before you.
Yeah, that was a mess.
I think that's what it was.
It was, and I think Oscar was trying to get out of the way of Daniel, but then got in the way of Charles Leclerc. But it was a bit of a mess.
I think it's just the wrong place at the wrong time. And even the turn 1, you know, the gap between Leclerc and Oscar was, as Nico said before, was a reasonable gap. It wasn't such a bad case of impeding anything.
Letting Daniel Ricciardo through Max Verstappen. Now, has he come out to do a practice start, or has he come out to do one more flying lap?
He's got time to do one more flying lap if he wants, so maybe just doing a slow lap to cool the tyres down. And yeah, he has got time if he wants it, I think.
Because this could be a very important lap. If Max has gone in, they've made a few minor setup changes and adjustments. They'll be hoping that they can get a read on that through one more 3.5 lap mile push around this track for a Red Bull team, as you say, group not in the top 5 at the moment, and Verstappen struggling with turning.
Yeah, Perez is on a lap, but his first sector isn't special, 26.8.
But he's done nothing other than cool the tyres down. He's not been into the garage since we saw him locking up. Right, Max is going to go for this, so Karoon, take us through it.
Right, he's launching himself into the slab. Doesn't have anyone close in front of him. Piastri's a bit further down the track, so he might pick up a little bit of a distant tow. And down into the first chicane, hard on the brakes there. Piastri's out of the way, so no slipstream effect. Gets the nose in, goes right, then left. Little bit of correction as he put the power down and heads towards the Curva Grande. Up again, he's going to have Stroll, so maybe again, we'll see if he gets the benefit of a little bit of a slipstream. Not bad for a sector, but as we've seen before, that's not where the differences are. The differences are coming in sectors 2 and 3. So let's see as we get into the Lesmos here. Oh, it does look understeery. Yeah. It's just pushing him wide. You always get understeer at Lesmo 1, but that looked like more than Max would have wanted. And similarly at Lesmo 2, it just seemed to carry him a bit wide onto that outside curve. We'll see if that reflects in the lap time, and it does. 4/10. It's just the front end's not digging into the track there through the Ascari. And if you've got any reluctance from the front axle to bite and to change direction, the Ascari chicane will expose that, because you really need a responsive front end. Towards the parabolica, bang on the white line as he fired it in, and then using all the width. Beautiful to see the judgment there on the white line on the way out. But the lap time, good final sector, but still slower than his previous lap.
Yeah, and that's a head scratcher, isn't it? If you are 3/10 down in the middle sector, but the best through the final sector, something's right with that car that gives it the grip through the parabolica, or is it straight line speed and less drag down the straight? But there needs to be more of a compromise to help you through the Lesmo corners, the Curva Grande, and that middle part of the lap. Verstappen stays 6th fastest, Ocon goes 17th fastest, and Charles Leclerc stays in the top 3 but doesn't improve on that lap.
This is confusing. So Leclerc is showing this, actually he's showing to still be on the used tyres, isn't he? So that is actually quite a good lap. If the tyres have done, what is it now, 14 laps, it says, according to the graphics in our commentary box, then that is a good time. To do a 20.38 on 14 lap tyres tells you that Ferrari are competitive.
So let's just take a look at this Max Verstappen lap again, and
that's the middle sector.
It is, and he dips into the gravel, I think, with his rear tyre on the way out. Let's just have another look at that.
But that came from the that's not such a big thing, but the hesitation on the first apex of that chicane is what cost the time, and I think that's where the middle sector is. But it's not happening easily for him. I look at when Mercedes go out and do a lap, or Ferrari do a lap, they're able to do competitive times with relative ease. It looks like Max is having to dig pretty deep to get a time on the board, and Perez 18th.
Put it this way, this time last year, Max Verstappen was winning here for the 10th consecutive race. What a difference 12 months makes as we return to Monza. Top 5 once again separated by about a 10th and a half.
Amazing.
So it's still really, really close. But on this occasion, Max Verstappen is not part of that top 5. He ends up 2.5 tenths down, with Lando Norris on the fringes of that top 5 as well. And for the second session running, FP2 and FP3, it's Lewis Hamilton with the fastest car. And Lewis said yesterday was a good day. Well, could Saturday be turning into a decent day? And that is Kevin Magnussen in the Haas that has stopped on the straight towards the Ascari chicane.
Kev, stop on the track, please. Stop on the track.
Now that is a very urgent sounding Mark Slade there, Kevin Magnussen's race engineer. So you get the feeling they told him to stop before something went bang.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. But...
Now,
did you hear that?
It didn't sound too healthy, did it?
No, but trying to see the dashboard looks like it's all gone off. I wonder if he's fully switched the car off.
I think he has now, or it's after being told to stop, then he switched it off. Kevin Magnussen, who caused a red flag in FP2 after crashing on the exits of turn 7, the second of the Lesmo corners. Well, a few yards on from that, has now had to stop his car. He's literally just about to go underneath that bridge where the old track used to wind its way with its banking, and he's just going to have to sit there, I'm afraid, until the rest of the grid make their way back to the garages. Franco Colapinto, by the way, ended up about 3 tenths behind his teammate Alex Albon, but both Williams in the top 10. And if it stays that way into qualifying, that will be a very, very good first qualifying session for the young Argentine in Formula One. What an intriguing hour that has been. Mercedes still out in front with Lewis Hamilton still the fastest, less than a tenth between himself and his teammate George Russell. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari that look to be keeping their tyres very much intact and producing good laps after laps after laps as the soft tyres hung on. A 10th down. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Then from McLaren, 10th and a half between them and Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen only 6th fastest. His teammate Sergio Perez didn't get his fastest time on the soft tyres. So his medium time of a 1:21.287 is his best in this session. Kevin Magnussen is going to have his car put on a low loader and taken back to the garage. We'll see if that car can be fixed in time for qualifying. And it's going to be close, this one, but who is going to get pole?
There seems to be some vibration coming from the front, from the engine.
Copy that, Checo. We'll investigate.